The RFK Jr. plan to make America healthy again, MAHA, could completely transform the way healthcare is in the USA as we know it. And as a Canadian, I've seen the other side of this. I've seen this supposed free healthcare system that actually leaves Canadians waiting longer, suffering longer, and sicker than ever before. But this RFK plan seems like it's quite a bit different. Today, I'm breaking down exactly what the proposal is, how it could shake up big pharma, but most importantly, what it means for you as a citizen of the USA. Because whether you're sick of skyrocketing insurance costs, this toxic processed food that we eat every single day, you need to see what's coming next. Let's dive into it. Mega goes MAHA. So after RFK drops out of the presidential race, endorses Trump, he has a mandate, a very, very clear mandate: make America healthy again. And now he's in. The seat is his. The signature is signed. Executive order. Boom, here we are. But what's he gonna do? What can a government do to bring it back to prosperity, bring health back into the tops of minds of people? I wanna watch a few videos and let's see what we got.
Before we get into the priorities on day one, you talked about prayer today in the Oval Office with all of those paintings from Reagan to Andrew Jackson to Abraham Lincoln, Washington, all around you. Why did you go to that moment?
Well, you know, I think it's relevant because we're not just in a health crisis, but we're in a spiritual crisis, and those things are connected. And you know, so many times during my campaign, traveling across the country, I sense that people are feeling disconnected. We have a whole generation of kids that feels alienated, dispossessed. They are in a existential crisis, not only because their health is, 77% of our kids can't qualify for military service. There's a purposelessness in their lives.
I think that's hitting the hammer on the head. We've all heard the adage: you make your bed in the morning, you're gonna feel accomplished and go out and have a good day. And it's because of a purpose, because of a sense of accomplishment and purpose. And we do not have a society right now being bred to fulfill a purpose. And as a result, after 1.5 generations going through this, what do you know? We have a lost society that doesn't seem very interested in doing much of anything. I think that getting America healthy is so much deeper than just cutting the vaccine schedule and getting rid of red dye. It is on a spiritual level, and I love this from RFK.
And no sense of usefulness or effectiveness or connectedness to their communities. And that drives also the chronic disease epidemic and the epidemics we're seeing of depression, of suicide, of alcoholism, of drug addiction.
Bingo.
I think we have to address all of those things at the same time. We can't just say we're going to make you physically healthy. We have to...
That's a tall order.
Yeah, well, I think, we all have to learn.
It's a tall order, but I do think this is a natural system. And I think that getting back to our spiritual roots, actually being able and even encouraged to question and prompt in that spirituality is going to be such a healthy thing for this society.
We need to get up in the morning and not think about what am I going to do to make myself happy today. We have to get up and say, what am I going to do to make myself useful today, to be useful to my friends, to my family, to my community. And that paradoxically is ultimately the path to happiness. That connectiveness that you get from doing good things, from being of service to others.
In the comments here we have, there's only one way to overcome an addiction, is through spiritual realignment and spiritual fire. Wow. Them are self-preservation fighting words that echoes around the world. Your dad and uncle must be smiling brightly and so proudly. Yeah, I think this is a renaissance. This is a new wave. For some reason, all at once, seeing the elite ejected from the US bureaucrats. And we have a new wave of people that seem to actually be interested in our well-being. I'll admit here, my spider senses are up, and we'll talk about it more in the episode. I do not trust these people. I do not trust the bureaucrats. I do not trust the politicians, but they're saying all the right things, and they seem to be aligning themselves with things that also, align towards what a better life would be. I wish health insurance would cover nutrition, Yeah, this is a huge problem in the USA right now, where you're getting these people on food stamps and on welfare, and they can't afford to buy nutritious food. So they go down this terrible rabbit hole, and really you think it's this negative spiral, this negative feedback loop. You buy bad food because you can't afford anything else, but you can't afford anything else because you're physically and mentally unwell. And you're physically and mentally unwell because you eat bad food. And so it's this negative feedback loop that doesn't allow you to ever escape, doesn't allow you to evacuate. And I think that helping and health insurance would be one way to help people get out of that and only support nutrition. I know there's been talks about this in the past, where your food stamps were only going to be valuable for certain food groups, for things that are deemed to be healthy. Now the problem gets in there. Well, what happens? Who gets to decide what's healthy and what's not? Is it going to be a vegan diet? Is it going to be a carnivore diet, low sugar diet? Or, how do we determine what the right nutrition is in what appears to be the most political time in the world? We need the small farmers, not the corporate ones. Yes. Is farming at small scale actually usable, actually profitable? Can you actually make a good life for yourself and your family farming at a small scale? And I think you can. In fact, I do what I can to buy most of my meat and lots of my eggs from local farmers. So I've actually orange pilled at the farmers market here. We're getting grass-fed steaks and grass-fed beef. I'm buying it with Bitcoin at the farmers market, all locally fed and locally sourced. I've got chicken and eggs coming from a different farmer, all within kind of 20, 30 minutes of my house. This is fantastic. However, we have to get out of this monocrop corporate farming nonsense, because I don't think that the world was designed, our bodies were not naturally designed to be eating stuff that was grown en masse like this.
Hi, this is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and I'm here outside of the United States Department of Agriculture to tell you about a win-win policy that I'll be pushing in the Trump administration.
Immediately, when a politician says win-win, Spidey senses the alarm bells should go off. We have to go after this from a first principles perspective to see if it actually is win-win or if this is just straight propaganda coming at us.
America's current ag policy is destroying America's health on every level. It's destroying the economic health of farmers by forcing them to get big or get out. Big corporate farms do just fine, while the small and medium family operators are squeezed to the point of collapse. It also destroys the health of America's soil and water by tilting the playing field in favor of more chemicals.
This is what I was talking about with the monocrops, is when you only have one set of crop on a vast land, the water usage and even the way that the ground and the soil naturally replenishes itself can't do a good job. When we're doing this monocrop, this only one thing on the soil eventually spoils and it goes bad because we're not using it to its full potential.
More herbicides, more insecticides, more concentrated monocrops and feedlots. And finally, it destroys the health of consumers. Not only do the chemicals pollute our bodies, the same way that they pollute the soil, but corporate interests have hijacked the USDA's dietary guidelines to make natural, unprocessed foods barely an afterthought. That's one reason why 70% of the American diet now consists of ultra-processed food. We're going to change that.
That is insane. My family and I, we have started eating a little bit more naturally. I'm super, super lucky to have a wife that is able and willing to stay home. She feeds our family. She bakes all of our bread. She sources and then washes all of our fruit. It's all laid out. I think that once and since we've been eating this way, it seems so daunting at first. But once you actually, get into it, once you get into the rhythm, into the habit, you realize that buying single ingredient foods at the store is much healthier, much better for you. You feel much better than buying this processed stuff. A great example of this, my wife's been making bread now for probably a better part of a year. There's 4 ingredients that goes into her bread. The bread that we used to buy at the store has 23. So what on earth are the other 19 ingredients going into the bread, and why are they there? Why are they required? How are they doing anything good for our bodies when nature's way of having bread is 4? This is the kind of stuff that I think RFK is talking about here. We need to be asking these questions, and we need to go into a place, into a space, into a mindset of buying single ingredient foods, not promoting these monocrops, and ultimately trying to be healthier ourselves. But I'm talking about personal responsibility here. This cannot, in my opinion, will not work as a top-down level. It has to be inside out. Start with the people.
We're going to give farmers an off-ramp from the current system that destroys their health wrecks the soil, makes Americans sick, and destroys family farms. We're going to rewrite the regulations to give smaller operators a break. We're going to encourage sustainable, regenerative farming that can build soil and replenish aquifers. We're going to ban the worst agricultural chemicals that are already prohibited in other countries. And we're going to remove conflicts of interest from the USDA dietary panels and commissions. I've seen some of what America's most innovative regenerative farmers are doing today. They can literally green deserts. They rebuild depleted soils. Wells that had been dry for 30 years start flowing again. They heal the land, and some of them make a very good living doing it. But unfortunately, many more have to fight the system in order to do what's right. It doesn't have to be this way. And when Donald Trump gets me inside the building I'm standing outside of right now, it won't be this way anymore. American agriculture will come roaring back, and so will American health. If you want this to happen as much as I do, please donate what you can to make America healthy again at ahanow.org. Thank you, and God bless.
I'm not sure if we're going to put the plea for money in there. But honestly, I love where this is going. I love seeing what looks to be an aligned incentive program. Now, the devil's going to be in the details, and of course, we're going to have to see where he goes with this. Foreign nations should not be allowed to own prime farmland in the USA. I hope this gets addressed. Domestic enemies that have been doing the same thing as China. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it shouldn't matter. The ownership of the lands, in my opinion, doesn't actually matter too much. I believe in a free market. I don't think we should be too restrictive over who can or cannot own the land. I think what's important is that the land is useful. Let's use the land in the way that God designed it to be used, and let's make people healthy with the production of the land. If you think back even to Bible times, we look at God giving land to the people. And he does this as a decree of faith that we, the humans, will actually be good with the land and use it to actually be fruitful for the people, for the nations. We are meant to take the land that we have. We're meant to be stewards of the land that God has given us, and we're meant to produce with it. This is the whole point. This is why we're on earth, is to be productive, is to be good stewards of what we have. But this is not the root issue. The root issue isn't who owns the land. It's what do we, you and I, the people, what do we demand of the land that is there?
And you know, one of the things I'm going to advise Donald Trump to do in order to correct the chronic disease epidemic is to ban pharmaceutical advertising on TV. There's only 2 countries in the world that allow pharmaceutical advertising on the airwaves. One of them is New Zealand and the other is us. And we have the highest disease rate, and we buy more drugs, and they're more expensive than anywhere in the world.
It's crazy when you look at that. Again, it just has to come down to a first principle look. When the entire plan, when everything is going to hell in a handbasket, it's important to just look at the highest level and just say, let's start with the basics. Let's start from square one. Let's start there, and then let's let the problems introduce themselves, and let's start solving these problems as they come up. And it seems to me, taking the other side of this, it seems like advertising pharmaceuticals doesn't do very good. It misaligns incentives completely, and I don't think this is what we want in our world.
Italy spends about 1/6 that we spend on healthcare, and Italians live 7 years longer. So whatever they're doing does not work. And don't you want a president who is going to fix this country? Don't you want a president who's going to end the addiction to foreign wars? And don't you want a president who's going to clean out the corruption and drain the swamp at the regulatory agencies? And get the chemicals out of our food and protect our children and restore their health.
This should not be controversial. If you oppose this, or if you have a family member that opposes this, please comment below and tell me why. Why do you oppose chemicals being out of the food? Why is getting the chemicals out of our food to protect our children and restore their health? Why is this a controversial take?
And make America the healthiest country in the world, which it was when I was a kid. Don't you want a president who's going to make America healthy again? And don't we deserve a president who will make America great again?
Yeah, I think that it is such an incredibly simple thing to do. Back to basics. Don't let the drug dealers advertise on TV. This seems reasonable. Don't let the drug dealers write the policies about drugs. This also seems reasonable. Don't throw a bunch of toxic chemicals into the food. This seems reasonable. Another commenter, this will serve a dual purpose of wiping out 75% of mainstream media's advertising, yes, or should I say hush money to keep quiet about the dangers of their drugs. Most people get introduced to their addiction or get funneled into their addiction after a severe injury and then down through the pharmaceutical rabbit hole. I myself personally was exposed to this. I broke my femur in 2016, 3 weeks before my wife and I had our first kid. And I'm in the hospital. I was there for 3 days, massive surgery, big metal rod from my hip down to my knee. It was touch and go. It was scary. For a few days there, it was like the doctor's words to my wife were, he's not going to die yet. And that was petrifying for my wife, who's 8.5 months pregnant, to hear that her 24, 25-year-old husband was like touch and go. Leaving the hospital, I got a bag full of Oxycontin. A massive bag. For those of you who don't know, I personally have been abstaining from substance for quite some time. I've got a history of substance abuse and do not like substance in any way, shape, or form. So I didn't take them. I went through recovery and rehab without the pills. But the comment on the way out the door was, if you need more, just ask. And we move into really dangerous territory when you run into if you need more of these highly addictive drugs, just ask. No question to me about my history of substance. No question to my wife about her husband's, history with substance. Nothing. Just here's a pile of toxic, and that feels really good when you have them, by the way. And if you want more of this, go ahead and take it. This is in Canada. I think the problem is not even as bad in Canada as it is in America. And so I think that when I talk about the web and the tangling that is pharmaceuticals into our life, when we've got 75%, what this commenter is claiming, of mainstream media's advertising effectively being threatened to get wiped away, it's going to have an interesting and it's going to be a crazy way for the world to change. Banning ads on TV for pharmaceutical companies isn't exactly interfering with the free market in this environment. The media is CIA and pharma is funding it while propagandizing the American public and buying immunity from liability. Let's go. This man says the quiet stuff out loud. Go figure. He's a libertarian. I think that it's a wicked circle, and I don't care how it gets broken. Yeah, I would tend to agree with this commenter. I think that we have an American, mostly maybe a Western civilization problem. We're glued to it. We believe everything we see. And for some reason, with all the information in the world, we have the most access to information than any other civilization on planet Earth, and we still find a way to be psyoped and tricked. We have abandoned our first principles and don't see a need to really investigate. The man on the TVs take the pills, and I took the pills. And it kind of begs the question here. Is this more of a leadership perspective? Is it more of a setting the tone from the top? Who cares about the policies kind of idea? If we get from the top, from the people that majority of Americans are looking to for education, or at least for inspiration, for understanding which direction I should be going, is it more important to have messaging, to be at least prompting these questions? Hey, fluoride in the water isn't that great. Hey, chemicals in the food isn't that great. Hey, if all you eat is seed oils, you're probably not going to be that healthy. Is this level of questioning enough for a population to wake up? Or do we actually need some sort of policy reform, some sort of actual, judicial system in place to mandate certain things or to mandate away from certain things? And ultimately, pass the question off to you. Do you think that RFK can be successful in his mission to make America healthy again? And if you believe that, and only if you believe that, only answer this if you actually believe that. Will it be done through policy or through messaging, through prompting us, you and I, to get back to a first principle perspective, asking questions about how you and I future-proof our lives? Share something. This is an important episode, you guys, because this is more than just health. This is about actually enabling generational prosperity. The ability, you've heard me talk before, Bitcoin and cold storage, generational wealth. It's the idea of passing something down to your kids. But at the same time, what good is being wealthy if you are not healthy? What good is having all the riches in the world if you can't truly enjoy them because you're overweight, because you can't breathe, because you're not feeling great, because your joints are not working, because you can't figure out what to make for food, because everything you see, everything you hear is just corrupt by some, medical industry. So please share this with someone that you disagree with. Share something that you know will disagree with my take, and get me in the comments. Tell me why I'm wrong. Point me in the direction where a first principle approach towards a more natural and healthy lifestyle is going to ruin us, because I just can't see it. So thanks again for watching. Stay sovereign.